Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar on violence against women and girls. This is the first time that NWIC have launched an initiative dedicated to this cause, and we are thrilled to unite this vibrant community in advocating to end violence against women and girls. Next slide, please, Izzy. So firstly, we would like to inform all participants that this webinar on violence against women and girls will include discussions on sensitive and potentially distressing topics. Our guest speakers will address issues such as domestic violence, sexual assault, and other forms of gender-based violence. We recognise that these topics may be triggering for some individuals. If you feel overwhelmed or need support at any time during a webinar, please do not hesitate to step away or seek help from a trusted individual or professional. Thank you for understanding and for joining us in this important conversation. So, as you all know, this week is NWIC's Violence Against Women and Girls Action Week. We are actively engaging in several crucial initiatives. So these include joint patrols with Met Police as part of Operation Vigilant, where the police officers collaborate with NWIC security team to engage with businesses and patrol the district, focusing on crimes within the nighttime economy, for example, in hotels, restaurants and bars. Additionally, we are conducting a tabletop exercise with the NWIC security team to enhance their knowledge on violence against women and girls, as these matters have require a level of sensitivity and a nuanced approach compared to other incidents. We're also working with the Met Police to launch the Walk, Talk and Do scheme, providing community members the opportunity to discuss the safety of women and girls in the district with the police. And some of you may have also received our leaflets, which we will be distributing throughout the week. These leaflets provide detailed information about the charities and organisations that we are partnering with to support the effort to end violence against women and girls. So this programme of action days aims to foster collaboration and strengthen our community's commitment to safety of women and girls. And if you would like to participate further in this, then please let us know. Our goal for today's webinar is to raise awareness and offer practical solutions for each participant on the call, so they can combat the issue of violence against women and girls. To support this initiative, we are honoured to have an esteemed panel of speakers who bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise to this field. So we have Simon from the Met Police, Augustine, who also works for the Met Police, Emanuela, who works for the Westminster City Council, and Gabriella from the Advanced Charity, and Aisha from EDA. So thank you all for joining and listening, and let's begin our discussion with our first speaker, Simon from the Met Police. Thank you.
Morning, thanks, Akin. Morning, everyone. Great honour to be invited to speak today's webinar. Grateful for Akin, Izzy, and everyone else at NWIC for making it happen. My name's Simon Beachy. I'm a Detective Inspector at Central West BCU, which covers Westminster, Hammersmith and Fulham, and Kensington, Chelsea. When the police talk about violence against women and girls, we use the acronym VAWG, and we talk about initiatives and schemes. But I'm just going to give you an insight today about what the Met does as business as usual to make sure that violence against women and girls, protecting vulnerable children and adults is part of our core business. And any initiatives and schemes that we do are here to strengthen and complement that commitment. Next slide, please, Izzy. A little history lesson. 140 years ago, in 1883, the Met had its first women's police department, and it was tasked primarily to deal with women and children. Thankfully, we've evolved an awful lot since then, and in 1987, the Met had the first domestic violence units in 2 divisions, and then when I joined in 1997, community safety units, which were primarily designed to deal with domestic abuse, were in every BC or every division, every police borough, and we were working with partners just to try and make sure that commitment was there. Today, now under the BCU model, we've got what we call a public protection strand, and that's just an insight, that slide there, homemade, I apologise. And it just shows you what commitment the Met have got to deal with public protection, primarily against violence against women, girls and children. And we're led by Detective Superintendent Lucy O'Connor. Next slide, please, Izzy. This is just a quick overview, I suppose, of the 12 teams that work in public protection and what they do as daily business. First of all, so the CSU, primarily the Community Safety Unit, this team deals with domestic violence and works with partners to ensure that victims of domestic violence survivors are supported, and perpetrators are dealt with firmly within the criminal justice system. Sitting alongside that is the RMU, which is a risk management unit. The police love TLAs, three-letter acronyms, so it's full of them, I'm afraid. So I'll try and say what they stand for. And this is a team that deals with ensuring that civil orders and multi-agency panels are implemented to deal with the most complicated and difficult cases of domestic assault, domestic violence. The unit that deals with sexual offences under public protection is called RASO, and they deal with serious sexual assaults and offences against everybody, not just partners in domestic violence. Moving on to that, we've got the missing persons team that we deal with missing people, the SET team that looks at exploitation of young people in the community, either for sexual exploitation or more commonly now criminality and drug use. Operation Jigsaw, that's the team that I manage. We deal with the sex offenders that are registered sex offenders by virtue of offences they've committed, and they're in the community, and it's nothing to be scared about potentially, but there are tens of thousands of people that have done their time in prison and they're released in the community, and we manage them to make sure that they're not at risk of offending and that we keep tabs on them, and luckily very few re-offend. How we might come into contact with business and retail is that if our sex offenders have employment or work, we can sometimes do disclosure. So it may be that some of my team or myself turn up and just let you know about a person, what they've done in the past, and allow you to manage that risk if they work with vulnerable people or anyone really. The Oxlade team deal with people who download images of children, and in some of the other teams they're just represent how we work with partners to deal with mental health, child abuse, and the MASH team bring together all the various social services, child family services, to make sure we've got a really good intelligence picture on what goes on. Next slide, please, Izzy. All of these teams work together, and we also work with other police units, such as my colleague Gus is going to join us in a minute, just to talk to neighbourhoods and response team, just to make sure there's a joined up approach to dealing with violence against women and girls every day, and it's part of what we do. Just a little bit now, just about how sort of proactively how you can help us and we can help you prevent and manage some of the challenges that people will face. And there's a whole raft of civil orders and civil legislation that allows people to protect themselves. I'm just going to give you a quick insight into what some of they are. So Clare's Law, first of all, is the Domestic Violence Disclosure Scheme. If you are concerned about your partner or someone else's partner, so a family member or colleague, you're actually allowed to come to the police and say, what information do you have on this male partner or female partner? And if there's a risk of violence or a risk of abuse, we are allowed to disclose that to the other person, not to the person who's asked necessarily, but the person at risk. So really powerful bit of legislation and really good preventative. Closely linked to that is Sarah's Law. If you have concerns about someone who's got access to children, so if you're a parent and you've got a new partner and you've got a child, you're able to go to the police and say, look, this person has access to my children or to my neighbour's children or to my colleague's children. Is there a risk? Is there anything known about them? And obviously certain conditions apply, but where we as police think there's a risk, we're allowed to disclose that record to allow people to safeguard themselves. When I first joined, it was all about charging people and sending them to prison and court, and we know that the landscape with domestic violence and abuse perpetrated by males is so difficult that we don't always get what we need to get, which is that custodial sentence. So there are a vast range of orders, civil orders, where we're allowed to impose conditions on people, perpetrators, that stop them doing stuff, such as living at an address with a person, contacting that person, and very often they come with powers of arrest, which are really good for police to allow us to stop that, and to sometimes they come with custodial sentences attached as well. So you don't always have to join that criminal justice system to get an outcome. There are lots of orders and lots of ways that we can make people safe using these civil orders. Next slide, please, Izzy. One of the things we do far better now than we did when I joined is we work with partners, and this is just a smattering of some of the agencies that we work with. Really good. I looked at the MWET website today. There's some really good links there as well to the other partners to see what other people do to support us in this battle, I suppose. One of the things I'm keen to stress, which I've seen rise massively, is the sort of digital abuse where perpetrators of violence hack into people's accounts, they track people, they use social media and the devices that we all carry. So I would just ask, if you're concerned, if you just want to be a bit more interested, Refuge have got a really good website on a digital breakup, they call it, just to allow you to be really safe and monitor what access and what potentially people may be able to see on your devices. And actually, you know, if you're concerned or if you want a bit of further support, absolutely come to the police. But there's a load of professional agencies out there, National Centre for Domestic Violence, Safer Lifestyle, that all offer you that support and can give you just a steer. Next slide, please, Izzy. I'm not sure we can do audience participation, but just to give you an idea, those devices, they're all commercially available. Some of them are available on Amazon. They're all available online. And it's a key bugbear of mine, actually, is that all of these devices contain SIM cards and listening devices. So all of these devices allow people to listen in. Really scary topic for Tuesday morning, I'm afraid, but they allow people to listen in to what's going on. We've had a couple of cases at Central West where a victim's house had about 5 or 6 of these devices. So one of the things that I'd ask people to do as well is, if you're not certain about a relationship you're in or other people are telling you stuff, keep an eye out for devices like this that may have suddenly appeared in your home. And if you're a bit concerned about anything that looks a bit untoward, give the police a call. We're more than happy just to examine and look at those devices. That's it, I think, for me. Just want to just to proactively summarise, I suppose, that if you're concerned, if you're in a situation that you're not happy about, trust your intuition, speak to the police, speak to a trusted partner, and we'll see what we can do. It doesn't hurt just to be safer than sorry. Thanks very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Simon. I'm now going to pass over to Augustine from the Met Police. Thank you.
Thank you, Akin. Hi, my name is Augustine Nanyabruna. I'm a sergeant in the Met Police. I'm currently on the Safer Neighbourhood team, and today I'm going to talk to you about Walk, Talk and Do. Next slide, please. Walk, Talk and Do. Now, what is it? Originally, it started in 2021 to help build trust and confidence across women and girls living in or working in London. And the aim of it was to start a conversation between members of the public and officers so we can better listen, respond to concerns and improve safety for women and girls in London. Women and girls can have the option to meet with local officers in their area to walk and talk or attend an advertised event. Now, these events are advertised on the Met Police website on the S&T side of section of the websites, rather. Over 100 walk, talk and do's are regularly completed each month across London. Officers will then work with partners such as the local authorities and charities to bring about meaningful change. Next slide, please. Now, how it works: women and girls can attend a walk, talk and do by various ways, such as by personal request via the Met Police website, contacting their local Safer Neighbourhood team, or by attending advertised walk, talk and do events. It's open to women aged 18 and girls who are accompanied by an adult 18 plus. Women and girls attending must live, work, be educated or commute through London. Walk, talk and do's can take place at any time, including those locations where there's less footfall, traffic and light, so officers can get a real sense of what their thoughts are. Next slide, please. Now, those that take part can share their views, experiences with officers in order to bring about positive change. We've had several walk, talk and do's that have taken place where things have been highlighted to us, such as areas where there's potential underreporting of crimes, and we work with the local authority, other partners in order to, make change inside those areas, whether it be high visibility patrols or just maybe fixing some sort of lighting issue inside the area through the local authority. Officers will provide a link so we can get more feedback. It's a smart survey and it's monitored by our Central Violence Against Women and Girls team. Officers will feedback what carries out post-event via organisers at a walk, talk and do event / social media communications using hashtag You Said We Did, and also newsletters, S&T ward panels and community events. I'm a big fan of newsletters. I recently sent out a newsletter in regards to another Vogue initiative that we run. And yeah, it's just so beneficial to send out with such newsletters, such information, and get feedback from yourselves. And women and girls can also report safety concerns anonymously via the Home Office Fleet Safe app. However, should always dial 999, I can't stress this enough, in an emergency. Next slide, please. Now, Street Safe is something that's been going on for a little while now. There is a website for it. It's called an app, but really, I mean, it's just another link on the Met Police website. And what you can do, you can report places where you have felt unsafe using this app, and this data is fed back to ourselves and also partners. There is a dashboard for it. On the screen, you can see figures, charts in regards to how much it's been used. Behavioral examples include where females have been followed or harassed. Environmental examples include females feeling unsafe when walking in open spaces due to poor lighting or overgrown shrubbery. Although there will not be enough detail to create a crime report, there will be enough data to identify broad hotspots or emerging trends that can be targeted or problem solved. Next slide, please. And that brings this presentation to an end. What I would like to say is that the newsletter I referred to is to do with our project operation called OpVigilant. It's an operation in which we'll be partnering with NWIC on Friday in order to carry out. And I'd like to, well, if possible, share it with yourselves through NWIC, our newsletter, so you can have an idea of what is exactly that we do on the enforcement side of things. What Talk and Do is very much the engagement side, but we want to show you how we deliver from information we get back from Walk Talk and Do's. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Augustine. I'll now pass it over to Emanuela from the council. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Amazing. My name is Emanuela Fadir. I am the Women's Night Safety and Hate Crime Officer for Westminster City Council. And today I'm just going to talk to you about the Council's Women's Night Safety Programme. Next slide, please. So what is the Night Safety Programme? Westminster Council has a no tolerance for sexual harassment, and thus our programme compromises of 6 core pillars that aim to tackle the highest level of sexual offences in London and in the West End. So it focuses on just the wider Westminster area, and it focuses on the evening, nighttime economy where the majority of offences occur. So each pillar is crucial to ending violence against women and girls in public spaces and ensuring the safety of women in London and the UK and in Westminster as well. Next slide, please. So the 6 core pillars that I mentioned are a night safety audit, which was conducted where a company went around Westminster to identify hotspot areas and things that could be changed and done by the council to make the Westminster a lot safer for women. And we have a behavioural change campaign called It's Her City Too, which aims to tackle bystander intervention. We have women's safety training, a women's night safety accreditation, safe havens, and the Night Stars project. Next slide, please. So what can you as a business or an employee, and how can you do and how can you get involved in our night safety program? So there are 4 key pillars that you could do specifically. This includes the women's safety training, the business accreditation scheme, our safe haven scheme, and a bonus strategy of working with the Night Stars. And I'll go through these in more depth now. Next slide, please. So 1, you could complete women's safety training. The council provides free online e-learning training on courses on anti-sexual harassment and vulnerability support as part of our night safety program. So we encourage businesses to use this training as part of induction sessions with new starters or refresher sessions for any of your existing staff. So the anti-sexual harassment training enables you to identify issues surrounding sexual harassment, safeguarding, vulnerability management of women, and so on. And topics include sexual harassment, sexual assault, rape, drink spiking, vulnerability, and alcohol and drugs awareness as well. And similarly, the vulnerability and safeguarding training is designed in order to teach people how to deal with vulnerable customers or vulnerable individuals at night. So topics include women's vulnerability, violence drugs and alcohol, drink spiking again, domestic violence, sexual assault, harassment, and first dates, how to deal with all of those scenarios as well as an employee and as a business. So you'll be equipped with various tools on how to identify and support customers that may become vulnerable, whether in venues or on the street. And it's a step further than standard safeguarding training, as it teaches attendees how to deal with specific issues that they may encounter as part of their night shift or part of their work, and so on. So it also empowers staff to recognize hotspots within their venues and letting people have a safer night out as well. Next slide, please. The next strategy that you could utilize is gain a Women's Night Safety accreditation. So we have an accreditation scheme where businesses, nighttime economy businesses, or daytime economy businesses as well, can become accredited by Westminster City Council as being safe for women. So our accreditation is a self-assessment where businesses self-assess and answer a questionnaire that assesses their undertaking of spot checks on their businesses virtually and inside. It just makes sure that they have the right tools and right tools available to them to make sure that their businesses are safe for women and so on. And the accreditation lasts for 12 months before the businesses are required to complete them again. So to become accredited, you need to fill an online questionnaire that takes around 10 minutes, even less than, to be fair, depends on how much of the criteria that you have covered. And then once that's completed, your business will receive a report or a certificate detailing how well you've done. And it's not really a case of like, if you fail, then you're just not accredited again. The report details what you can do to improve, and then you can just do the test again, and then you become accredited, which is great. Next slide, please. So in terms of the criteria for becoming accredited, we ask for staff members or managers of front of house and public facing staff to have completed the free anti-sexual harassment and women's vulnerability training that I've listed beforehand. It does also ask if you've completed other training like WAVE training or VOG awareness training too, but those are just more of a bonus, and we do encourage you to do that as well. We ask for you to have a dedicated member of staff who will be responsible for leading the accreditation project, so a night safety champion or so with accessible contact details. We ask for you to have policies around harassment, including sexual and physical harassment, where both staff and customers have channels that enable them to report any incidents. A clear and easy customers complaint procedure that includes details of how complaints will be investigated and dealt with. A health and safety policies that protect the personal safety of staff and customers, and those policies must adhere to GDPR guidelines. We ask you to review your spaces to reduce the risk of sexual harassment. For example, have identified areas of poor CCTV and lighting and make steps to improve those. And we also ask you to conduct daily checks of CCTV and lighting to ensure that they're working properly as well. And also utilize your internal and external channels, if you do have any, to promote women's safety within your space. Next slide, please. And then our next strategy is to become a safe haven. So safe havens, similar to the accreditation, they are a temporary space for women and vulnerable individuals to recover safely and make their way home. So if anyone finds themselves in a vulnerable situation, your business can be a registered safe haven where that person can come to that business if it's close by and then get any help that they need. So our vision is for them to act as places where people can go for a short break if they need to charge their phones, wait for taxis and get home safely as well. Safe havens, we don't expect you to provide specialist interventions. You should contact emergency services, signpost to specialist services if needed. And they do provide a safe space just for visitors to just help them in the small moments of vulnerability as well. And how to become one, you can apply online through that link there, and applicants are asked whether or not they meet the criteria, which we'll talk about soon, and then you'll be contacted by the council as well. Next slide, please. So in terms of the safe haven criteria, the venue must hold a Westminster City Council's night safety accreditation, so what we spoke about before. There must be a minimum of 2 staff during operating hours. At least one is a dedicated night safety champion, so a staff member who's trained in night safety issues should be present. Staff members present during operating hours must have completed the free anti-sexual harassment and women's vulnerability training as well. All staff employed must be aware of the Safe Haven scheme and how to deal with any requests or help for support. We ask for a clear written procedure for escalating those who need medical or emergency service assistance. We ask for you to have contact information for key services, including domestic and sexual abuse helplines, Samaritans, Crime Stoppers, Susie Lampley Trust, and victim support, but we can help you in gaining those as well. All staff must be visibly identifiable as staff members within the Safe Haven premises. There must be an identified usable space as the Safe Haven area that is covered by CCTV. We ask for you to have a first aid kit and at least one member of staff who's a qualified first aider. Yeah, we can discuss more about that as well, because we understand that's not always possible. Charging points, public liability insurance, and must display branded signage that we will provide. So just like window stickers that say you are a Safe Haven, and you can see them in the little corner below. They have the hands and so on. Next slide, please. And lastly, a strategy that you could use is work with the Night Stars. So for those of you who don't know, the Night Stars are a volunteer initiative run by the council, and they provide support or assistance to those who are vulnerable or need help getting home. They're a highly visible street presence, and they work to reduce the fear of crime in the area. And they work in teams of 2 or more within the West End. They provide assistance to vulnerable customers, whether people need water or help sobering up. They need information on getting home, how to help people who have lost their friends or family. If anyone needs medical attention or some police attention, we can help them contact emergency services and so on. So we currently work in partnership with the Metropolitan Police, London Ambulance Service, Safer Business Network, and we're supported by Capital Arches Group and the London Heritage Quarter Business Improvement Districts. And all of that is just with the aim of working together to reduce violence against women and girls. So where and when does the service occur? It operates in Soho, Leicester Square, Chinatown, Embankment, The Strand, Charing Cross, Villiers Street and Trafalgar Square, Piccadilly, Oxford Street, Carnaby Street, Tottenham Court Road, and sometimes Victoria and Covent Garden. And we operate on Fridays, Saturdays once a month from 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. And then here are some contact details on how to contact me or the Night Stars or any of your night safe admin queries and so on. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Manuela. That's really good information. I'll now pass it on to Aisha from EDA. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Akin. Hi everyone, I'm Aisha from the Employers Initiative on Domestic Abuse, IDA for short. If we can go to the next slide, please. So we are a charity. We were set up in 2017 with the kind of aim that every employer should take effective action on domestic abuse. The workplace could be somebody's only safe space if they're experiencing domestic abuse, away from the perpetrator, from an abusive person, if they aren't in the workplace. So it's a really accessible way for them to actually get that support. We currently have now over 1,600 employer members. So that's employers from across the UK, all different sizes, all different sectors, all with a similar aim of actually wanting to implement a domestic abuse response. And we support them to do that, and I will show you how. Next slide, please. So we essentially do 4 things at IDA. We raise awareness of what domestic abuse is and why it's a workplace issue. So still a real lack of understanding of what domestic abuse is, the fact that it's not just physical abuse and the kind of the coercive controlling element to it. So we really try and raise awareness of that, and to support employers to actually encourage their workforce to understand what it is as well. Victims and survivors themselves don't often understand or recognise that they're actually in an abusive relationship. So really just trying to emphasise the importance of actually talking about it. An employee needs, so we create resources, we have various different bits of information. We've just recently launched our handbook, which is a step-by-step guide, which I'll talk more about in a moment. But we create different resources. We've got case studies from employers around sort of good practice and what's worked well, what hasn't worked well. We've got survivor stories, so stories from domestic abuse survivors who have had a positive or perhaps negative experience of the workplace, and the impacts that had on them. We've got a resource around handling disclosures of domestic abuse. So we had legal input on that resource around how information should be recorded when it's disclosed by staff, and various other things. We've got a newsletter that goes out every few Tuesdays called the Tuesday Trio, which we include all of our new pieces of information in. And that goes out to all of our membership. So it's a really good way of keeping up to date with the recent changes in legislation or recent reports that have come out, and our resources as well. We've got 13 ambassadors who are people with lived experience of domestic abuse that share their story in our events and through our resources. They do quite a lot of consultation work for us to really ensure that survivor voice is at the heart of everything that we do. We share ideas and connect employers with each other. So obviously having such a massive employer data network, one of the kind of the key benefits from that is actually being able to learn from each other. So we make those direct contacts and introductions to one another. So where we're having conversations with an organisation and something's coming up that they're having a challenge or they need some advice around, we can connect them with organisations that have had similar challenges, or those from the same sector or from a similar type of organisation. So really just kind of learning from each other, and it's all about not reinventing the wheel. We put on events as well, so we have about 3 in-person events a year, which are generally on a kind of broader topic. So we had one looking at perpetrators and how workplaces can address perpetrators within their response. We did one recently around the links between the mental health and kind of workplace wellbeing response and that of domestic abuse, so where there's overlaps and where there's differences. And they're a real opportunity for our members to meet each other and actually have that networking opportunity face to face. And then we also do insight hours, which are webinars, which are generally a bit more of a deep dive on a specific topic. So we had one recently around intersectionality, looking at the ways that the different parts of people's identity intersect and will actually impact their experience of domestic abuse and create barriers for them being able to disclose and get that support. So really important for employers to understand that and to really have an inclusive response that talks to their whole organisation. And those insight hours are generally available to anybody who wants to access them. So you can send them out to all employees across the organisation, which is a really great way to keep the domestic abuse on the agenda. And then we also work with government domestic abuse partners and various academics to provide latest guidance. So a piece of work that we recently did and published was creating a language guide, and we worked with Avon and Somerset Police on that, and an academic from Northumbria University, and it really is just kind of thinking about the importance of language and the right language to use within an organisation that really ensures it's an inclusive response, but also it's language that will make people feel like it's talking to them. So as I mentioned before, do people identify as being a victim or a survivor? Do people recognise themselves as being in a domestic abuse situation? What language could be used to ensure that people really feel like it's for them and they recognise themselves in that? So yeah, that guidance is on our website as well. And we also supported the government with the Now Domestic Abuse Act when it was a bill, as well, to kind of make sure that employer perspective was in there. And actually, I'll talk about it on the next slide. Next slide, please. So why the role of the employer is important. So I mentioned before that there's still a lot of misunderstanding and kind of a lot of stigma around domestic abuse and what it is. So really just trying to help people to understand themselves perhaps as being in a domestic abuse situation and raise awareness of it. So within the Domestic Abuse Act of 2021, in the statutory guidance that goes alongside it, it actually notes there that employers have a duty of care for their employees and that they should specifically consider the impact of domestic abuse on their employees. So that's written there, kind of the legal duty of care as the reason why it's a workplace issue. For the business, so the economic cost of domestic abuse to businesses in the UK is at 17 billion, which is a huge number. So that's through decreased productivity, time off work, lost wages and sick pay. So, just the kind of the sum there speaks to why it's a workplace issue and why businesses should play their part in actually supporting employees. And then for society, so I'll talk about the stats a bit more on the next slide, but 2 women a week are killed in England and Wales. and by a partner or ex-partner, and 30 men per year. So that's a huge number, and not actually something that you would know about. So, we don't hear about that stat in the news or in the media, but it's a real, it's a real statistic, and it's scarily high number. So it just talks to why it's a societal issue. Next slide, please. So here are some of the statistics around domestic abuse. Now, if you've done any work in the domestic abuse space, you may have seen some of these before, but 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience domestic abuse in their lifetime. So if you just think about the number of people that work within your organisation, there will be people that are currently experiencing it, have experienced it perhaps at some point in their past, and are now maybe living with the trauma of the abuse that they did experience, or are going through post-separation abuse. So it's a relevant issue for everybody that's on this call, and it's perhaps that you know people that are experiencing it, but you don't know they are experiencing it. So some education around what domestic abuse is would help you be able to spot the signs in people. And also for the number of victim survivors there of domestic abuse, it's likely that it will also be perpetrated within the organisation. So 56% of employers said that domestic abuse led to absenteeism. So this could be a result of the individual having visible physical injuries they perhaps don't want their colleagues to see. It could be that they have mental health issues that have derived as a result of the abuse, and they don't feel able to come to work, or it might be that the perpetrator is simply stopping them from coming to the workplace. So if you have those concerns with somebody, just sort of ask them the question, are they okay? Is everything okay at home? Is there anything that the organisation can do to support them? I mentioned the 17 billion statistic there before, but the economic cost of domestic abuse in England in 2022 was at 78 billion, and that's a massively significant number. And then here, only 5% of employers were said to have a specific domestic abuse policy or guidance in place. This was in 2019, so we're hoping it's a little bit higher now, but still such a low number. And we really are encouraging businesses to actually implement a policy or a guidance so that their workforce know that they have that support in place. If we can go to the next slide, please. So this is the framework that we encourage businesses to use when responding to an individual, but also as an organisational response. So I'll talk about it here in terms of both, really. So the Recognise, Respond, Refer framework. So recognise that it actually does happen within the workplace. So I just talked about the statistics. There will be people impacted. So really trying to raise awareness of what it is, help people to understand or generally what domestic abuse is, to be able to recognise the signs in themselves and in colleagues, keeping it on the agenda. So keeping campaigns and pieces of information available for all people to be able to access. Respond, so making sure that everybody is able to respond and has that kind of relevant training. It's really important that all colleagues have some level of understanding of what it is if you're going to have a domestic abuse response. So a person who's experienced domestic abuse will on average have experienced between 35 to 50 incidents or experiences of abuse before they seek help. So they may have been experiencing it for many years before they get to the point where they're ready to seek help and actually talk about it to somebody else. So it's really important at that point that they are met with somebody who is understanding, who is non-judgmental, who is believing, and who gives them that space to really be able to talk about what they've been through and be able to signpost them to relevant support. If they're met with any kind of judgment or non-believing attitude or real kind of lack of understanding of what it is, they may never disclose again. So it's really just about creating that culture within the organisation where people feel able to talk about it. And then refer, so having internal processes in place. So you may have an EAP scheme, or you may have various counselling options or domestic abuse champions, or having information about the expert specialist services that are external as well. So could you have somewhere on your intranet page where you have information about what domestic abuse is and the relevant support internally, and then also the local and national services that are available for free for people to access. Nobody is expected to be an expert within the organisation, but it's really just about creating opportunities and a culture where people do feel able to come forward and seek that support. So it's really important that you're able to signpost to specialist organisations who can do so. And it's also worth noting here that at the point of somebody wanting to leave an abusive situation, is when it can become most dangerous, because that's when the abusive person actually loses control of that situation. So, you know, if somebody comes forward and they are wanting to leave that relationship or that situation, then it's really important they are connected with one of those specialist services to do so safely. Next slide, please. This is the front cover of our handbook. So just to talk through this is our main kind of resource that we have obviously just recently launched. It's a step-by-step guide that talks you through the various different stages of actually implementing a domestic abuse response. It is a brilliant resource, I would say myself. We had input from employers, from our ambassadors, from other survivors, from the domestic abuse sector. So it's really a collaborative piece of work. And we have loads of case studies in there, and, you know, real life examples and quotes from survivors, and it talks through 4 different phases of implementing a response. So the first phase would be about getting the senior leadership buy-in and creating the business case, really kind of the really initial stages of actually, before you actually go on and actually implement the response, what you need to have in place. And then the second phase talks through implementing the work, so, you know, how to implement a policy, how to implement training, do you want to have domestic abuse champions, do you need to set up a working group, the comms plan, the launch. It goes through all of those things in quite a lot of detail. And then the third phase is really about embedding that work. So how can you ensure that it's, you know, embedded for the long term? So can you include it within recruitment processes, onboarding processes, one-to-ones? Can you include it within the ongoing comms plan for the next sort of few years? Can you create a implementation plan which or a strategy that is like a 5-year strategy to make sure that it is really embedded within the fabric of the organisation? And then the fourth phase is really about taking it further. So what can you do once you have your own response in place? What can you do to encourage others to do the same? You know, can you encourage your supply chains to implement a policy? Can you do some work in the community with domestic abuse services? Can you do some fundraising opportunities? Can you think about what your organisation or your business offers, and whether you could do any pro bono work or support customers in any way? So it goes through all those different things, things to think about. And then it also talks about whether you can get more involved with IDA as an organisation, because we have got various different options in terms of membership as well. And the next slide, please. The handbook comes along with 4 downloadable guides, which can be printed or shared within the organisation. So these are specifically designed for these groups of people. So that's a guide for everybody, so that can be shared with all employees. And then a guide for managers, so that's including information around specifically how managers can support the people they're managing, what sort of signs to look out for, what opportunities they can create if they're concerned for somebody. Around there for domestic abuse champions as well. And then that's our language guide that I mentioned earlier. So that's something that can be shared across the organisation and can really be used at the heart of when you're implementing the response. So what language do you want to use within the response? And that next slide, please, I think is the final slide. So that is the QR code that links through to the membership sign up page. So I really would encourage you to sign up. It's free to join. I don't think I said that. So there really are no barriers to joining. And it'd be great to have you as part of our network. And if you have any questions, that's my direct email there, support@ida.org.uk. So please get in touch if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Aisha. There have been 1 or 2 questions that have come through. Just to let everyone know, there will be a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So if you want to ask any questions, then just put it in the chat or just ask us at the end. I'll now move on to the next speaker, who is Gabriella from the Advance Charity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Yes, so I'm going to talk about Advance Charity and more specific about the Angelou project. So the next one, So Advance was founded in 1998. So we are a domestic abuse charity, and we offer holistic support to all survivors, victims and survivors of domestic abuse. And we are a women's-led service, trauma-informed service, and we have specialist advocates to support women throughout the journey. So the next one. So a bit more of the Angelou Partnership. So the Angelou Partnership is actually 8 specialist organizations that have come together to support women and girls experiencing domestic or sexual violence. We offer the service to women living in the Triborough, Westminster, Hammersmith and Fulham, and Kensington and Chelsea. And the model of the Angelou partnership is intersectional, is trauma-informed, and if we pass to the next one, I'm going to explain a bit more how is the point of entry. So we have a women's-led and survivor-led approach. Some of the organizations that we work with are Bayan 4, specialists such as ICRO for Iranian and Kurdish women. We have Al Saniyah for Arabic women. We have Women's Trust that offer counseling, and we also work in the partnership with Gallup for the LGBTQ+ community. The next one. So the Angelou project at Advance, we have what we call the point of entry. So we have a duty service. So all referrals come to us, can come to us, and then depending on the needs and the specificity of the women, we refer to the partners as well. So we have a team of specialist IDVAs. This includes senior IDVAs, but also we have mental health, young person advocate. And again, as I said, we also refer to the partner. We have a duty, what we call a duty team, which is that where we offer that initial assessment or triage to all the referrals that come into the service. And after that, we allocate all the cases or all survivors to work alongside on a one-to-one with our independent domestic violence advocates or with a DA caseworker, domestic abuse caseworker. The next one. So we support women and girls from age 13 to 25. So we have the especially young women and girls advocate, and we also have the core, what we call core IDVAs and mental health, substance misuse, that provide that specific support. Within Advance, we have other projects apart from the Angelou, and the independent domestic violence advocates are co-located in different sectors, for example, in housing or social care. So we can also work alongside them to provide that holistic support to the women that are working for us. We offer practical and emotional support. And for practical support, I mean, this means supporting them to obtain civil orders, for example, a non-molestation order, supporting them when they are going to give the statement to the police, when they have to attend court. We can also work very closely with social workers. We refer them to counseling or DA support groups. So we offer that kind of support. If women need also support with immigration or things like that, we can offer that as well. We always liaise with other professionals, so it's a kind of multi-agency work. The support that we provide is tailored and unique to each case, so we work case by case. We acknowledge that every case is different, every circumstance is different, so the IDVAS will always focus and will provide the support specific to the needs of the victim. As I said, we provide them the options, but they make the decisions. The next one. We have a specific project for young women and girls. We have a specific advocate to work with young women from age 13 to age 25. As part of this project, we also liaise with schools, youth clubs. So we offer trainings. This could be trainings on healthy relationships, raising awareness around intimate partner violence. We provide that emotional support. Advance also has a specific project for young women and girls, so we can refer to them, so they can have one-to-one mentoring with a peer mentor. So we offer that kind of more long-term support to young women and girls. The next one, please. The Angelou referral pathway. So women can refer themselves. I'm going to share later on the phone number and the email, so they can self-refer themselves. They can contact us as easy as just giving us a call or sending us an email. We also receive referrals from different professionals, so they could come from the police, from MARAC, the Multi-Agency Risk Assessment Conference. We also accept referrals from GPs, social workers, schools, and so on. Once we receive the referral and we process the referral, If the client meets the remit of the advance, then we make the assessment and allocate the case to a NIDBA to work on more on a one-to-one long-term support. It could be that the case could be referred to one of the partners, as I said before. And then we also, we work with other professionals such as MARAC. Once we receive the referral and we process the referral, we make contact attempt, or actually we will contact the client within 24 hours. So it's quite quickly that we make the contact with the victim. The next one. So this is a bit of to hear, what victims wants to hear from you. And then I'm gonna read some quotes of, what victims say when they approach and when they look and they seek help. For many women, when you first try and tell someone you are experiencing domestic abuse, no one listens to you. The person you are telling might not recognize what you are experiencing is abuse or know how to ask the right questions. So this is really important. As Aisha was saying before, be mindful of the language that you use. Do not blame, believe them, and seek support. The next quote says they might not know how to offer the support that you need, or know where to refer you for help. And when somebody finally does listen and everyone jumps into action, your voice can get lost again. And this is really important that, throughout the support, since the person or you can sense that the person needs that support, believe them, give them the choice, give them the options, support, believe, be confidential as well in your approach, and seek for the right services to refer them. So hopefully at the end of this presentation, you will have more information on how women can access our service. We offer the service is free and is confidential. The next one, please. So the referral pathway, we have a referral form that we ask professionals to complete. It's very important that when you are making a referral that you gather consent before making the referral, so the woman is always informed of where she's being referred to and the support that she will receive. We have our email. As I said, women can refer themselves as well. They can email us, they can call us. They don't have to complete the form if they refer themselves. What we ask in the referral form from you is a bit of your contact detail, but we would like, and also the consent, that is very important, and that you give a brief of the background of the most recent incident, and the most recent incident can be a week ago, 2 days to 3 months ago. As I said before, we make contact within 24 hours from receiving the referral, from the moment that we receive the referral, and the outcome can be that we have made a successful contact, we have made the assessment, and we have allocated the case to an independent domestic violence advocate. If it was an unsuccessful contact, then we will inform the referrer, and then from there we will provide that holistic support depending on what the needs of the victims are. And the next one is the only moment. We also work very closely with MARAC, which is a multi-agency risk assessment conference where multiple professionals meet, and then we share relevant information to safeguard victims. Only in this case, we will accept the referral with no consent. We are always open for questions, so you can also call us and receive advice as professionals as well, how to better support. So you can do that. The next one. And then, so these are finally our contact details. We have a duty line that works from Monday to Friday from 10 to 6. We run every Thursday, we run early duty. So from 8 in the morning until 9 p.m. And women can call, you can call as well. And then, yeah, so that's the email. And you can always email and request the referral form as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. There has been a few questions that have come through in the chat. The first question is, can you supply these slides after the event? And yeah, we're more than happy to do that, to give more sort of insight and information. Some other questions that have also come through for Simon. What should you do if you witness a suspected domestic abuse case on the street or in store?
Thanks, Akin. One of the things that we would suggest is not to intervene really, because although we see the constant that people saying that society letting things happen, and unless you're guaranteed of a positive outcome, we would always say please act as a witness first of all. So identify what the suspect's doing, what he or she is wearing, and communicate that to the police via 999, as Augustine already said. And this echoes something Emanuela said about first aid. Actually, make sure that people have got, in your staff or yourself, have got a basic understanding of emergency first aid, just to sort of stop really catastrophic bleeding or to use defibrillators. It's really key, and people should be taught that at school, but useful skills to have. So if the situation has passed, just go and speak to the victim and make sure that he or she is comfortable, and try and reassure them, and just try and contact emergency services, let them know where you are, what's happened, where people have gone. So just sort of reiterate, don't get involved unless you're 100% certain of what the outcome will be by you getting involved, because we're more likely than not we'd end up with 2 victims. So it's always better, we suggest, just to witness and be good witnesses for us.
Thanks so much, Simon. I've got a question for Aisha here. So why is it important for organisations to have a domestic abuse policy?
Yeah, thanks, Akin. So it's important for organisations to have a domestic abuse policy because it creates that consistency across the organisation. So if you're going to be an organisation that's talking about having a domestic abuse response in place, the individual who's experiencing it knows that no matter who their line manager is or who they speak to, they'll get the same level of support. It's not about your relationship you have with your line manager or your line manager's knowledge of domestic abuse, but actually it really sends the message to employees that the organisation doesn't tolerate it. And also for the individual, if you think about somebody who's experiencing domestic abuse, they have a high level of control taken over their life, and having a domestic abuse policy where they can go to see what support is available before they actually decide on whether or not they want to disclose, they can see what support is available to them and they can take that level of control back. That's massive for that individual. So there's quite a lot of elements to it, but it really just sends that kind of key message that actually the organisation doesn't tolerate it, and it's going to be there to support individuals.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks so much for answering that. And just one more question here from for Emanuela. So someone's asked, how will a woman walking from home from Soho know about the Safe Haven initiative?
Hello. So you can the Safe Havens, we're working on getting a GIS map developed, so you can see where they are on our website. But we are also working with a company called Vigilant, who have developed an app where all Safe Havens within the borough and other boroughs are posted there, and then people can find that, download that app and find that information. And then we're also working on potentially working with other apps and Safer Business Network and so on, so that that information is easily accessible. But also, like I said, those window stickers will be on businesses and venues that are registered Safe Havens as well. So keep an eye out for those.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. That concludes the Q&A session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and thank you so much, everyone who spoke on the webinar. I think we provided a lot of awareness around violence against women and girls, and hopefully a lot of the participants can take this information back with them. And yeah, everyone have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining, everyone.